quite simple. Who is the best team in the National Football League?
My bias, it wants me to say the Detroit Lions. Talking about biting kneecaps on the way up and kneecap and knuckle soup. I'm like, what is going on?
Week 7, Football Nation, let's go. He is the wonderfully talented Nate Burleson. I'm Tim Micallef, and I only got one question. I had a conversation, but one question, and I know I'm asking this in a time of recency bias after the Eagles and Niners lost. The Finns go to Philly this week, and I realize that Any Given Sunday ain't just a movie, but who's the best team in the league, Nate Burleson?
This is the toughest question because my bias, it wants me to say the Detroit Lions. Like I so deeply want to just say Detroit is the best team, give them all the credit in the world. But there's two hesitations. One, I want to make sure that they continue to do this consistently through the next few weeks. Secondly, I don't even think Detroit has played their best football. So I want to see what their best football looks like compared to the best football we've seen from Buffalo, Miami, 49ers, and of course the Eagles. I would say the Dolphins right now are the best team, and Detroit Lions a close second. I know you're saying, Nate, what the hell are you talking about? You didn't mention the Kansas City Chiefs, and you're sitting here saying that the Eagles and the 49ers are all of a sudden not 1 and 2. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. And you know what, Tim? It's okay to have some recency bias. That's what we're here for.
Right. All right. So let's start with the Detroit Lions because, listen, you played for the Lions. There's a lot of Lions fans in Canada. Like, let's break this down a little bit because the fact that you even put them in they haven't won a playoff game since 1991. Like, I had nice hair in 1991, Nate Burleson. Not only did I have hair, I had nice hair. Like, the fact that they're even in this conference, they were 1-6 to start the year last year. Like, what is it that you've seen flip in the Detroit Lions?
Yeah, man, 1991, I had that Duncan Penderhughes flat top. I was a real class act, you know what I'm saying? but you know, regardless of the demons that they are still trying to exercise,
that was a kid
what makes them impressive?
For my
but I feel like when it comes to the Detroit Lions, you have to look at them top to bottom. Quarterback play. Jared Goff, I feel like, has had one hell of a second career, if you will, or second act once he went to Detroit. We thought that he was just this kind of discarded trade and we'll see what happens. Maybe his career fizzles out and then he becomes a career backup. No, on the contrary, it's been the opposite. He has proven to be one of the better quarterbacks, more consistent quarterbacks in the Detroit Lions uniform. So they take care of the ball. Amon-Ra, when healthy, is just an absolute star. They can run the rock and they can beat you up. On the defensive side, I don't know if you pay attention to Aiden Hutchinson, but for the fans out there that want to watch some old school, hard-nosed, just elbows and knees running after the quarterback, my dude is out there like Wreck-It Ralph. And what's even more dope about that is that during the week, he's talking to J.J. Watt. And I know that because I'm sitting next to J.J. Watt on Sundays. So he's already a beast. He's getting knowledge from one of the greatest pass rushers ever, and he has the ability to be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. And he's just one of many guys on that defense. The reason I bring all that up is because this isn't a team that has a few good bright spots. This is the team that's good on every single level. And we haven't even talked about Dan Campbell yet, who, for whatever it's worth, represents Detroit. He knows how to speak to his team. He keeps these guys on the edge of their seat. I know that type of coach. I've always loved that type of coach. A coach that won't BS you, but he never makes you feel like you should ever get comfortable. And there's coaches that do that and they're faking it. And then there's coaches that say that and you actually believe it. That's why Detroit's playing the way they are.
When they hired him and he gave the speech about biting people and getting back, I was like, time has passed this dude by, man. That's talking 91. That's some
old school. That was like the 70s. He was talking about biting kneecaps on the way up and kneecap and knuckle soup. I'm like, what is going on? But you know what? From the outside looking in, we were like, all right, let's see how long this lasts. Because there were a lot of people thinking that Dan Campbell was just this master motivator and he's saying whatever he wants to get the job. And once he gets the job, guys in that locker room will slowly but surely kind of get tired of this act. But the great thing is it's not an act. That's why guys aren't tired. If you think about what happened with Matt Patricia, they were trying to make it the Patriot way in Detroit. And I know from the guys in the locker room, They didn't like that. They're like, yo, we're not the Detroit Patriots. We're not the New England Lions. Like, we are Detroit all the way. And I think Dan Campbell has given these guys a sense of identity and pride that, yeah, we are nobody else. We are playing like the Detroit Lions.
Dudes see through that when it's inauthentic, right? Like I hate using the word authentic because it's kind of like buzzy these days, but like when it's fake, I feel like the room sees through that.
Oh, 100%, bro.
Yeah.
Like, there would be times
like that's
when,
just Dan Campbell.
yeah, there will be times when you'd be sitting on the field waiting for practice to start. You'll hear a whistle. You'll be looking for the head coach, and all of a sudden the head coach will come marching in. And this is after a big win, or we're feeling ourselves. And if the coach doesn't do it right, we know that it is more theatrical than it is beneficial to the team. And all the veterans will look at each other like, oh, here we go. Here's this guy, man. And if you talk to some coaches, they'll tell you, yeah, we do that stuff on purpose. But there's a little theater, but there has to be, to your point, some authenticity that goes along with that.
All right, so listen, we did the whole 49ers thing last week, and listen, the Browns defense was real, and I know defense don't win championships anymore, but that they won 2 games because the Jets and the Browns both won big games with defense. But are we off the Niners? Because I still look at the numbers, and I got them right in front of me here. Offense, second in the league in points per game, 30.7. Defense, first in the league points per game, 14.5. Like, that's really real, son.
Nah, we're not off. We're not off the Niners. Like,
okay.
Let's look at Brock Purdy, for example. He's been playing well, hasn't turned the ball over, and then all of a sudden we realize, oh, Brock Purdy is human. He does make mistakes, and this offense can stub their toe a little bit. And we've talked about it time and time again. It's good to taste a little blood in your mouth early on in the season. It's good to get punched and see if you can get back up and dust yourself off. I mean, the only thing is when you see a team like the Eagles or the 49ers lose is that those coaches, those players have to kind of bury all of the thoughts and hopes that they were going undefeated. Because I know it's hard to do, especially with an extra game added, but I remember starting 5-0 and we lost our first game, and the coach coming in, he's like, well, there that goes. And we're like, there what goes? He's like, well, I thought we had a chance to go undefeated. But it was good, though, because now we got the loss out of the way. We can move on with the rest of the season. I still believe in Brock. I still believe in this offense. And that defense, as we know, is phenomenal. And to your point of what you said a few minutes ago, defense wins championships. As explosive as some of these offenses are, I feel like we might have a defensive juggernaut as representation in the Super Bowl. This isn't going to be a high-flying 62-58 Super Bowl. I believe that once the playoffs come around, the weather gets cold, there's going to be a physical team that will beat up one of those high-flying offenses and represent their conference in the Super Bowl.
Okay, so let's go through it. It can't be the Browns or the Jets, can it?
Nah, not necessarily. I don't think so, because you would have to have a quarterback playing at a high level. Now, if Deshaun Watson comes back and he plays like Deshaun Watson of a few years ago in Houston, maybe. The Jets, I mean, you have Zach Wilson taking care of the ball, not turning it over, and that defense helps win the game for them. It could be, but think about some other teams, though. Who are you thinking of? Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say Jets on a bye this week, but then it's at New York Giants, which is not an it's kind of a,
at home.
Then they get the Chargers, then they get Vegas. Like, they could be 6-3.
They could be 6-3, and don't let young Zach Wilson start feeling himself and playing at a high level, because then you can't convince him anything. Because what do we say? Young players don't know what they don't know. So he might wake up one day and be like, hold on, wait, did I just win 4 games in a row? I'm absolutely legit, powered by a great defense. But another team that we're not mentioning, Cincinnati Bengals. Like, listen, say whatever you want. And I know that the Bengals were that team that you didn't want to touch with the long stick at the beginning of the season. Joe Burrow's banged up. Yeah, he was injured and he's limping through the start of the season. Just signed a big deal. None of the starters play in the preseason. They're still trying to figure it out. Don't let this team get ultra healthy and start to figure it out, because they have everything that they need to be as dominant as they were at the end of the year last year.
Okay, so Fins and Eagles, what does that tell you this week, if anything?
It tells me how tough Miami is. We know that the Eagles are a hard-nosed team. They can win the ugly game. You know, they don't need to have A.J. Brown catching, 15 balls and putting up 200 yards. They can kind of nickel and dime their way down the field, feed everybody, use the running game. Swift has been looking unbelievable. Defense go out there and beat up quarterbacks. The back end, create some plays. I feel like we know what the Philadelphia Eagles can do in a game that's mucked up, as we call it.
Right.
But have we necessarily seen that from Miami? Have we seen them in just a fight, minute after minute, ugly, low-scoring affair? What does that look like when Miami's in that type of game? And I'll tell you what, if Miami pulls out an ugly game, they can do it all. If they can win a 10-7 game and then also beat somebody by 50 points, I mean, this is a team that we really have to legitimately start considering as the AFC representative for the Super Bowl.
All right, I got two teams I want to bring up and one stat that I'm going to hit you with for the Miami Dolphins, because you are Mr. Toe Drag Swag. You are Nate Burleson. You are a receiver. Tyreek Hill needs 186 receiving yards over his next two games, 186 to become the first player in the Super Bowl era with 1,000 yards in the first 8 games of the season. Like, as a dude that strove for that 1,000 yard mark, like what does that sound like in your ears when I say he could get there by 8? He could get there by 7.
I saw that this week and I couldn't stop telling people. I was at Starbucks and I was like, "Hey, did you know Tyreek Hill is almost at 1,000?" They were like, "What? Really?" No joke. I was telling everybody that I could about Tyreek almost hitting 1,000 yards. We're talking 800 plus yards through 6 weeks. I do believe he's going to get it. What's stopping him? Tyreek could put up 200 yards a game if he wanted to. I honestly believe if Mike McDaniel was like, "Yo, Tyreek, we're going to get you 15 balls and you're going to put up 250 today, and then we're going to sit you down in the third quarter." They can do that every single week. That is one of the most impressive stats ever. Because regardless if you say the game has evolved and the guys aren't getting harassed at the line of scrimmage and they're not in fear of the big hit like they used to be in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, it doesn't matter. He is so fast, so explosive, and he has just proven it week after week. Like you said, a guy like me, I'm sitting there in week 14, 15, 16 trying to scratch and claw my way to hit the 1,000 yard mark. This guy is there well before the halfway mark of the season. I do believe Tyreek Hill is the scariest threat at wide receiver since Randy Moss. And we have to start normalizing the comparisons of guys that have different statures, different builds. Usually it's like, who does Tyreek Hill remind you of? Oh, he reminds you of a little guy, fast feet. No, he reminds me of Randy Moss. Tyreek Hill is Randy Moss, shrunken down in size. Same type of Olympic balls of the whites of your eyes, the toes of your feet lifting up. I'm talking about the DBs. The whites of their eyes, the toes of the feet lifting up, scared as hell, getting into their back pedal before the play even starts. That's the type of fear Tyreek Hill puts into DBs. And that's the type of fear that Randy Moss did. And the reason I say that, because I saw Randy line up and guys panic before the play started. I see them trembling. I see their eyes get big. I see them start leaning back with help over the top. Right. I look at the field where Tyreek is out there in motion, and you see, could you imagine? I mean, come on, we're all familiar with the CFL, right? We're Canadians, you know what I mean? But like, imagine the fastest dude in the league in motion, and he's about to run at you at full speed, and you're at a standstill. Like you're not even like shuffling your feet, getting ready. It's literally unstoppable. Now you add that motion, that speed, that running start with some type of combination route that Mike McDaniel's drawn up. I believe he's going to hit the 2K mark easy. I mean, easy.
Wow. Remember we had the MVP conversation after like 2 weeks? We might be having that conversation after 13 weeks, after 14 weeks. All right, two teams I didn't get to. Kansas City Chiefs seem to be flying under the radar at 5-1. I've been concerned about their offense. Should I be?
No, don't be concerned about their offense. Okay. This is what Kansas City does. You know what I like in Kansas City too? I like in Kansas City too the really good NBA teams where there might be these lulls in the season, where starters might rest, the offense doesn't look as crisp. But right after the All-Star break, everybody shows up. The superstars show up. Steph Curry starts hitting half-court shots. LeBron starts dunking from the dotted. Giannis Antetokounmpo starts going crazy. Dame Lillard's hitting you with the Dame time. Jimmy Buckets is cooking. That's after the All-Star break. So I feel like after the midway mark of the season, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be rolling. They are going to be rolling. The offense has kind of stubbed their foot and not looked as explosive. But one thing's for sure, if you got Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, they're going to be straight. Now you just got to get everybody else on the same page. And by the end of the year, they're going to be one of the more dominant teams, no doubt.
Right. I trust you on that one. All right. The Bills have shown flashes, but you've been in rooms before. I don't want to diminish the talent that it takes just to get into that room and the next man up stuff that the coaches feed us because they know this ish is dangerous. But losing Tre'Davious White and Matt Milano feels to me like it could be a deal breaker for Buffalo. Does any of that strike a chord with you?
It does. It does. They are not just a couple of guys that add value to the team. They are a couple of guys that help that defense become the dominant defense we're used to seeing. I'm extremely concerned for this squad because it's way too early. We've seen, some disappointing losses. And now you have a couple of guys that are fixtures on this defense out. It's unfortunate, and I feel bad for them too, man, because those guys are fun to watch, especially Tre'Davious White getting back on the field. But hopefully they can have the next man up mentality. Other guys are getting healthy while ones are hurt. Kyle Brandt said it once on Good Morning Football, and it's kind of hard to say, and I don't want to sound insensitive at all, but it kind of struck me because I never thought about it. He said the football gods are cruel and they demand sacrifice. And I'm just like, whoa, that's heavy. But hopefully those guys going down can motivate this team because this window is closing, my brother. And I hate to be that guy, but how many years can this be one of the best rosters on paper and then you continually fall short? Not to mention now you have a couple of your best players with season-ending injuries. When they do come back, will this team look the same? Will they play the same? Now we're talking age, injury, money that is hanging above guys' heads. There's just so many variables that could end up dismantling the squad if they fall short once again.
And finally, Nate Burleson, I know you are equipped to answer this question. Who will be the star at flag football in the Olympics in Los Angeles?
Yo,
we're doing this.
I heard that they're not allowing NFL players to participate.
Well, at first I heard that the NFL was encouraging their players to participate.
Really?
These are conflicting reports.
Okay.
Nate Dogg.
Okay. Oh,
I got a computer here.
Okay, wait.
Google
So
this.
if that's the case, it's Tyreek Hill. Let's get back to him. Come on, man.
Imagine Tyreek Hill in flag football.
First of all, he's so low to the ground that even if you try to, how you go up against those flag football players and they know all the little moves that's gonna be Tyreek Hill. All the big fellas, y'all might want to sit this one out, but all the small, fast guys, this is your time to shine. Go get gold. Hey, listen, I might even go take some HGH and get out there, man, because I need to win a championship.
Hey, we might suit you up for Canada.
That's what I'm talking about.
Pull a Joel Embiid. Just flip the script on everybody.
Facts.
I always love talking football with you. We do it again next week.
No doubt. See you next week, bro.